concerned, and they should be.
Absolutely.
Concerned.
Yeah.
You know, it's like totally reasonable. Yeah, not really.
And also, there's a bunch of little kids who are playing halftime.
Those are town council.
My son and Annika's too. How was tonight?
That already
Last
happened.
week, but there's
Yada yada.
like the
I think.
U14 team,
Oh.
which my
Maybe.
son and
Yeah.
Annika's son are on.
That's exciting. But if they're up 2-1 and Yarmouth scored.
All right, welcome everyone. This is the call to order of the MSAD 51 school board meeting, Thursday, September 5th. First week of school for students. We know that our teachers and staff need to be back before this week, but very exciting week. Great weather for it as well. So we are going to get started this evening with some recognitions. I know there's a big soccer game going on right now, which may be, there we go. So there's very little parking because it's a Yarmouth Greeley soccer game, girls and boys afterwards. I think we are hoping that some of the representatives from the lacrosse and the district, the Shapiro will be here this evening, but we know with bad timing, I think, with the big game outside. So we're going to start with the Hashi Art Exchange and welcome Linda McCann Olson up to the podium to talk about this program.
Good evening, everyone. Take me just a moment to get things up. So I think most of you are have at least met me or come across me at one time or another. I was an art teacher, K6 here for many years, and Leanne and I know each other in another school setting. If you've been in the lobby at the GCA recently, you have seen some stunning black and white prints. Most of them were created by our now 3rd and 4th grade students, and the larger format prints were created by students in Aomori, Japan. Aomori is Maine's sister state, and we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of our relationship. Here on the left, you see a print from Aomori. Aomori is very similar in climate to Maine. They grow a lot of apples. Really, the Fuji apple comes from Aomori. In the middle is a current 4th grader holding his print from 3rd grade last year. He was a real Godzilla fan, and found it very amusing that as I went off to study post-war Japan in June, Godzilla was very much the subject of my first class. And then the print on the right is by one of our students from a couple of years ago. So I wanted to explain a little bit about what this is and how we go about it. Here's the poster for our exhibit, which will be up for the month of September. Next Thursday, the 12th, from 3:30 to 5:30, is a community reception. I hope that some of you will be able to join us. I gave you a smaller version of the invitation as a little reminder, and I have some posters if anyone thinks that they have a home for those. So the way it works is we have been making our prints in the spring and displaying them in September in Aomori, their exhibit of our prints and their prints. So it's an exchange. We send them about 100 prints. They send us 100 or more. The number seems to be increasing each year. We received their prints in June. They've made them the previous November. So here are some photos from last year, prints in the background, and happy community members attending the reception. Jeff has generously provided cider donuts from Sweetzer's, which are a big hit. This is part of a cultural exchange, which is a goal of Friends of Aomori, an organization that I'm a member of. In 2019, I was invited to go to Aomori to learn about a printmaking project. This is what they do each November in their schools. Printmaking is probably the most popular, well-known art form in Japan. And each year in November, there's a holiday that's an arts and education day, and the project centers around that. So on the left, you see me visiting in one of the schools with two of my hosts, Dr. Suzuki and Ono-san. Dr. Suzuki and Ono-san are both members of the Aomori City Morning Rotary, and for a long time they've had a relationship with Friends of Aomori for many years. There was a print exchange between adult printmakers. So these two guys love children and being around them, and they're trying to think of ways that they can perpetuate this relationship and help share Japan's culture. So they decided the way to do that was to work with a teacher, to work with students. So I was very fortunate to be that teacher. And put my teacher voice on again. So here I am in Aomori visiting a school. Notice this was the version of prints that they make with younger children. That there's kind of this Godzilla on the side. Here, Ono-san and Suzuki-san are hanging up the print that I helped make, and then here it is in the Gurley Middle School gallery in the fall of 2020. We try to share, or I try to give students an assignment on subject that shares a common theme so that very many commonalities. And Dr. Suzuki's dream was to see the exhibit in the United States. So in 2022, he and his daughter, Mika, and then another doctor colleague who was his student in med school came to see the exhibition, and they were absolutely thrilled. Who would not be thrilled with the Greeley Center for the Arts as the venue? Munakata Shiko, or Shiko Munakata, depending upon which side of the Pacific you're on, is a famous printmaker from Aomori. Ono-san was director of the Munakata Museum up until the collection went to the Aomori Museum of Art in March. And his style of printmaking is significant. It's called modern printmaking. Traditionally in Japan, there would be a whole group of people who would have their hands on prints. There'd be an artist who would design it, think hokusai, and then it would be a print house producing. Someone would transfer the artist's design onto a block. Another carver would do the carving. Printer would be adding the colors and making multiple prints. But Munakata carves his own blocks. He's very nearsighted. You can see him working right up next to the block on the bottom. There he is. It's designated as a living treasure of Japan. And his work, so he would only use black ink, which is what we used, and then afterwards he would take liquid colored pigment and paint from behind. So that's how he would get the tremendous coloration. Lots of mountains in Aomori Prefecture and snow, another thing that they share with us. So here are students working on prints this spring. This spring, the prompts for third graders was local architecture. And I worked with Carolyn Small. If any of you know Carolyn, she took me on a rousing tour of Cumberland, narrating, driving the whole time. I'm furiously trying to take notes and photographs. We used my photographs, some from historic collections, and I'm guessing you recognize that building in the center. So students really love this process, very process-oriented, kind of messy. Not all elementary art teachers are willing to have 20 or more students with this black ink and the brayer. But you stick with them and teach them the process. They get a lot of joy out of it. So second graders, their subject was Maine seaweed. There were a few folks who kind of stretched that to anything from the sea, but another thing that we have in common with Japan is our harvest, our bounty from the sea. So we were fortunate, or I was fortunate, to receive a grant from National Consortium for Teaching East Asia, who brought Holly Thompson, author of the book The Wakame Gatherers, to speak to all of our second graders. The Wakame Gatherers is about a little girl who lives in Japan. She has one grandmother in Japan and one grandmother from Maine. The grandmother from Maine comes to visit. So wonderful, wonderful message. And here you have seaweed harvesters in Aomori and in Maine. Part of the culture exchange, learning about how we do things in another place far away. Here is the delegation from Japan in 2022 visiting our art room at MIW. And then here I was visiting a second and third grade art room. The teacher had them sit on the floor for the directions, which very tempting to touch these things on the table. And just seeing the different classroom setups, although then also seeing the things that are the same. We have 6 big tables in our art studio. They have 6 big tables. The sister-state relationship began with a shipwreck. The Chesborough from Bath, Maine, went down off the coast of Subaru in a little community called Shariki, which would be right about here in 1899 on Halloween. About 25 people aboard, 4 survivors. People in Aomori rescued them, got them back to Bath. Bath has a sister city relationship with Subaru. They installed this touring gate as kind of a monument to that. And this is just an example of some touring gates in Aomori. We previously had a relationship, an in-person exchange with Namioka Junior High School. I also got to visit them while I was at Aomori. We would send 10 or so rising 8th graders in August, which is the time of their big festival. They would return in January with students. And as during COVID, there were about 7 communities in Maine that had that sort of reciprocal in-person exchange, and that's become increasingly difficult. So, and cultural exchange, art exchange, exchange of something very personal becomes a way to help bridge that gap between the sister states. On the back of your piece of paper is all of this, a little more about it, or if you're wanting to refer back. And then here are some prints from this year's exhibit. So in honor of the 30th anniversary of the sister states, we have this exhibition here, which features a great number of our students' work. There will be a smaller exhibit in the exhibition hall at the fair. And then in the beginning of October, the exhibit at the fair combined with works from Aomori will be up at the Maine Maritime Museum in Bath until January. And I'm also going to be doing a small exhibit of works from 5th and 6th grade students from Japan in the Portland Public Library, which will be up November through the end of January. So glad to answer questions. Or
Thank you so much for sustaining this program. It's very incredible. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, go for it.
What are the plans now that you're no longer with us?
That's an excellent question. The answers that I'm still trying to work on, although Corey and I and Jeff and I have tossed around some ideas. I would, because it is a relationship with the entire state, I would like to try and reach out to other teachers as well. But nothing beats the GCA as a venue. So working on that. I'll be pursuing some grants this fall as new funding rounds come out.
I just want to thank Linda. Linda's recently retired, as she alluded to, and just want to thank her for continuing to be really actively involved with our district. This is a great exchange, and thank you for sustaining the partnership. Linda's done a great job over the years. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, and I hope to make the reception. I hope others can as well. So incredible artwork. Thank you. Okay, so I think we've been trumped by a very important soccer game this evening. Should we proceed with the recognition in absence of... So I'd like to welcome Rep. Annie Graham and Teresa Purse to give the girls lacrosse team a sentiment.
Well, thank you. And the thanks need to go to Steve Moriarty, Representative Steve Moriarty. Steve is down in North Carolina, I believe, visiting grandchildren, and he's the one that made all these really awesome sentiments happen this last session. And so I get to piggyback on it, and so does Senator Teresa Pierce. With that, I just want to, Linda just left, but, you know, my 32-year-old was inspired by her, you know, and so It's really nice. And then also, I really should go watch my husband coach soccer. Maybe not. Anyway, but thank you so much. And thank you for all the work you do. You know, when I look at the work that school boards do and select boards do and town councils do, you are where the rubber meets the road. And I really want to thank you. And we are like up there. And so please don't ever hesitate to reach out. My hope is that I will be back there and Senator Pierce will be back there. So with that, I'm going to let Teresa read the sentiment.
So thank you so much for having us today. As everyone said, I'm Senator Teresa Pierce, and I have the honor of representing Cumberland up in the State House and 5.5 other communities. It's always great to have a start to a school year, so congratulations. We're still getting to thank and congratulate people from last year. You guys had an extraordinary season all over the place in your district, so congrats. State of Maine, be it be known that all we, the members of the Senate and the House of Representatives, join in recognizing Greeley High School girls lacrosse team of Cumberland, which won the Class B state championship, the team's 3rd consecutive state title. We extend our congratulations and best wishes, and be it ordered that this official sentiment and expression be sent forthwith on behalf of the 131st Legislature and the people of the state of Maine. And it's signed by the President and the Speaker. So congratulations again. I hope you have every success this year. And both my parents were public schools teachers. I love being in, I just walk through the building like, oh my God, it's so great to be here. So thank you for having us, and have a great night, and go soccer team, I guess.
She doesn't realize that we're playing Yarmouth.
Right.
I'm from Falmouth.
Right.
So, yeah.
Now you're in the other league now.
Anyway, have a great night, and thanks
Thank
for everything
you.
that you do.
Thank you
and
so
we'll
much.
just leave this for you to
We'll leave.
make
Thank
sure
you.
they get somewhere.
I appreciate it. Yeah, can we do like a live stream, like in the corner? Can we put that up?
Might as well.
Put it up on the TV.
Great. Thanks so much. All right, now we're going to move to approval of minutes. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of the July 18th, 2024 meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Megan. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Annika. Any questions, comments from our July 18th? Great, we'll move to a vote. All in favor? Great. It's unanimous. Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the August 22nd, 2024 meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Kim. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Christina. Any questions or comments? Okay, move to approve. Great. Unanimous. Except Annika abstained. Okay, so now we are moving to our public comment section of the agenda. We welcome, sorry, let me get my little notes out. The board welcome and recognizes the value of public comment, and to ensure public comment is fair and orderly, we follow procedures outlined in board policy BEDH, and we ask that all members of the public do so as well. We follow this policy to keep the meeting civil, respectful, and productive. We also hope that this allows for all community members who would like to speak to be heard. We ask that speakers use the designated podium when making their comments and speak into the microphone. If you're interested in speaking, please wait until you're recognized by myself, the chair. Comments made by individuals are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at a meeting. A clock will be visible on the screen to help keep track of time. After 3 minutes, the timer will go off and comments should be wrapped up. Please state your name and town of residence before beginning your remarks. As a reminder, public comment is not a time for discussion, Q&A, or debate among the board and speakers. Rather, is a chance for members of the public to express their opinion on school and educational matters. The board will not comment on remarks made by speakers during public comment. Lastly, please keep comments respectful and civil. And now I would like anybody here for public comment. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Lou Gallaudet from Cumberland. As you well know, the school board and the administration approved a cost of $480,000 for a half-acre back lot in order to expand the lot for the new school building. I want to repeat that number, $480,000 for a 1/2 acre back lot. Now, I know many people have worked very hard on creating a plan for this new school, but I believe fervently that this price of $480,000 for such a small lot is not fiscally sound and not responsible, and in fact is disrespectful of taxpayers' money. I urge the new school building committee, if it's within their purview, to re-examine this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce.
Hello, Bruce Sherwin in Cumberland. I'm going to talk about artificial turf a little bit. A little bit about me first. I coached middle school basketball in Cumberland in Greeley system for over 20 years. I coached the travel team also. My season would go October to March or April. We'd play 45 or 50 games, practice 3 times a week. I am into the Greeley athletic system. In fact, 3 of the varsity coaches right now played middle school basketball. I coached them in middle school basketball, including the basketball varsity coach. So what I want to talk about artificial turf, because the voters of Cumberland and North Yarmouth were not given good facts to make their decision on it. Artificial turf is a known global warmer contributor. Some people will say that while you mow it and you use gas to run the mow of grass, but you know, the grass doesn't go away what it does with artificial turf. Artificial turf is like tar. Like mankind is tarring the earth, artificial turfing it, and contributing to global warming. I think the vote would have gone differently if that was presented to the Cumberland vote. I don't know that it was presented. I couldn't find it as presented anywhere in that way. In fact, the artificial turf was hidden from ads in the Forecaster and notices from the newsletter of the school district and Cumberland's town crier. Didn't mention artificial turf in them. And it's a known global warming item. I think that we should reconsider that, somehow we should, and take a stand that Cumberland is for the future, not for instant gratification. Katie and Sophia, you're young. Some of you board members have children, young children. This global warming is going to affect you in your future, your children, and unborn children beyond you. And even though it's a small thing and it doesn't seem like it makes, taking a stand makes a difference. This artificial turf thing should be re-examined. It should be not done. And the town of Cumberland, we've got bigger things to spend our money on too. We should be focusing on affordable housing that got killed. That was a bad deal for Cumberland. But we need to find a good deal and help on affordable housing. Cumberland has got 4 or 5 intersections due to growth that need, one of them, $12 million worth of work to fix it. We got to pay for that somehow. So all the cards stacked up, if you stack them up, don't stack up in favor of artificial turf. And I think the voters were not informed of what I'm trying to inform people of now. So, young people, ask your school district to take a stand on artificial turf. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. And just a reminder, just address the comments directly to me next time. But I do have young kids, so I appreciate.
I don't know that. I'm just here trying to do something.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Bruce.
No agenda, by the way, online. There was no agenda online. I checked at 5:38. I've been checking all day because I didn't know if there was really a meeting or not. So whoever does the agenda online needs to have a talk with them.
Thank you, Bruce. All right. We are going to move to presentations. Actually, sorry. Anyone else for public comment? Okay. We're going to move to presentations. I'm going to reorder it a little bit just to honor the time of our principals who are going to be presenting the opening year updates and their site improvement plans. So we'll kick off with our principals, and I don't know if, well, Corey, you're up first. Start with the youngest ones.
Yeah, I always get to go first.
Great.
That's good. On behalf of the principals, though, thank you for inviting us here just to share a little bit about our opening days and our school improvement plans. We know your time is also valuable, so we will try to be concise, but we'll also try to provide some good information. Before I start, though, I do want to give some shout-outs to Jeff, Scott, Don, and especially Dowen's Construction. If you have been around MIW or been in our building at all, the amount of work that happened over the summer, I think every summer there's a ton of work that happens, but this summer we have a brand new sandbox, which is like, you would think we put like a Mercedes out in the playground or something. The kids are obsessed with it. It's unbelievable. We actually have grass on our playground now, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's absolutely, it's so fun just to see kids running around and playing in like a actual field again or a yard. We had a bunch of tile work done, so our moon and stars got completely redone. Where the new windows, as everybody knows, has already made a big difference. And just paint. We have so much painting that happened. Literally, I think a teacher who has been there 20 plus years said, I have never seen the building look this good in my time since I've been there. So just a huge thank you to everybody that had a piece in that and supported that. It made for a really good opening few days for our staff and our students. So again, thank you. To talk about the opening days, so for our staff, as you know, we have a few staff days prior to kids coming. Those days are spent a lot on team building, a lot on data sharing, a lot on getting ready for the school year, some curriculum work. So I think everybody really wants to hear about the kids' first few days, so I'm going to shift quickly to that. Today was the first day of our kindergartners, and it is absolutely one of the most special days of the year. You know, to see 100, 200 little 5-year-olds get off the bus and they're just amazed at the school, and everything for them is new, even if they've been there before. I think I got into almost every single kindergarten classroom, and it's an unbelievably great class. They're just so excited. They're like, I get my own little cup. Like, just everything for them is really exciting, which is great. Tomorrow is the first day with pre-K as well, so we will have an absolute full building tomorrow. We try to stagger the starts of having first grade through third grade come a couple days, and then kindergarten, and then pre-K, just so transportation issues and just really making sure that as our kids are navigating a brand new school district and a new school for the first time, there's not too many new at the same time. But it's been a really positive first few days. Kids are happy, staff are happy. Really, from myself and Mallory's perspective, I don't think we could have asked for a better opening of school. So very, very excited about that. One of the things we talked about last year during the staff days was our theme for the year. And we set the theme for the year, if you remember, was togetherness. I think I talked about it a little bit last year. And the theme for this year is a lightning bolt, so it is energy. And we spent a lot of time over the first 3 days with staff talking about not necessarily their energy, like if you know Mallory, her level of like, woohoo, very excited about everything, but energy of just choosing to be positive, choosing to find the good in everything that happens, and really being a battery for other people and charging them up instead of being a vacuum for other people. So you might hear some more conversation about that as the year goes on, but that is MIW's staff theme for the year, is energy. I will shift to our school improvement plan. Similar to last year, we have 2 goal areas. So the first goal area is around social emotional learning, and that is really helping students and staff feel a sense of connectedness and really supporting all areas of them outside of even just academics. So as I mentioned, some things that we did, as I mentioned, with the first 3 days, we gave staff a lot of time for team building to really get to know each other. We did another fun goose chase, which is kind of like a scavenger hunt. I think I have a video somewhere of Scott Poulin and sort of some teachers at central office doing some fun things. So lots of laughs, lots of just getting to know you, and then a really good balance of digging into the curriculum, getting their classrooms ready, making sure that when students came on day 1, we are 100% ready. So that's just one example of how we really are trying to support staff social emotional well-being. For students, we will continue our responsive classroom practices. I think last year, or maybe 2 years ago, was the first year that we actually built in a morning meeting into every single teacher's schedule. This year is the first year that we've actually built in a closing circle into every teacher's schedule. So it's sort of just the next step in really making sure that our teachers and our students are having daily conversations. They're sort of starting the day with, this is the plan, this is the expectation, and then they're ending the day with reflecting on how did the day go, what can we do better tomorrow as a community, and really owning and problem solving together. So we will continue to support Responsive Classroom and some of those practices for both our students and then the well-being of our staff. And then, not surprisingly, we at our level, the second goal is around teaching and learning. And we have many, many action items that we're doing this year. But the overall goal is students will exhibit academic growth towards appropriate learning goals. So our staff are continuing, thanks to your support and through the budget process, of improving or continuing to increase their knowledge around the science of reading. So they're taking the second letters course. Many of them are doing that. Some of them are actually taking their third course. They chose to. That was an optional thing. We have 2 literacy pilots going on right now, so lots of summer work and before school started work to really get ready for both those 2 literacy pilots plus our core program. Also in our early release schedule this year, for the first time, we wanted to do this for many, many years, but we actually scheduled time for grade level teams to have data-based conversations. And so we do those as a whole staff, we do those one-on-one during meetings, but we've tried really hard for years to have like the entire first grade team sit down and talk about kids and talk about where are they in their learning. And, you know, Jeff, you might do this with your class and my kiddo's struggling with this. Can we bounce ideas off of each other? And all of those conversations have been happening forever. That's not a new phenomenon. It's not like we created and reinvented the wheel, but we just dedicated time for it instead of teachers sort of trying to find time on their own. And I'm really excited about sort of leading some of those and also participating and also just watching some of those conversations. I think it's going to be really good for our kids. So, and one of the other indicators, we have a computer program that we use called Link It. I think we talked about it last year. We moved almost all of our math assessments to the program last year. And this year we're really going to focus on our literacy assessments as well. And basically the short of it is our teachers, instead of doing an assessment and then putting it on a spreadsheet and then we analyze the data, the teacher just entered the data directly into the program and the program helps analyze the data for us. So it kind of cuts out 2 or 3 steps of the process. And it really worked well for math, and we're hoping it will continue to allow teachers to really refine sort of where students are in the learning continuum and help us provide better differentiation interventions ultimately. Questions?
Does anyone I have a couple questions, but
I was just gonna run. I'm like, all right, I'm out.
it was more just about the science of reading program. Remind me, are we in year 2 or 3 of this implementation?
So this is year 1 of the pilot. So it's it's year 2 of our like whole staff learning, and then year 1 of the pilot. And our goal is to either have a 2-year pilot if we need more time, or to bring forward a new literacy program in next year's budget if we land on one.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And how are you, what kind of data are you collecting to help understand if the pilot is going to be effective?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, for any grade level, most of the kids are still using our core program that we had from phonics to reading, and then a small handful, 40% or so, are doing one of the 2 pilots. So we'll have some good comparative data between what we're currently doing and sort of the new pilots, but we also recognize that when we implement a new program, oftentimes it does take a few years to sort of see the results. So that won't be the only measure that we use. Through our letters work, there's actually a curriculum evaluation tool, and we're going to meet monthly and fill that out and reflect and talk about, does it meet all the check boxes that we were told it does, and through our research that we believe it does. But it's going to be the teachers really evaluating it along with our specialists as an ongoing process based on a curriculum evaluation tool that we have.
Great. And is there opportunities along the way that parents will be shared some of that data? I know we've gotten comments in the past, and I know as a parent that, for the iReadies, that they're administered, and then often the parents don't see the results until maybe after the school year. And is there ways that information is going to be shared with parents along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think we try to share as much information as we can. I'd have to actually think about what we would share in comparison, because like I said, it's not really apples to apples, because it does take a little bit of time. But we have, in terms of us sharing information, we've certainly communicated, your kid's going to be in a pilot class. This is what it might look like. We have fielded some questions about it. I would imagine that sharing out just sort of the basic curriculum evaluation tool should be no problem. Just FYI, this is how we're going to be evaluating the curriculum. But I will have to work with Mallory. So Mallory actually oversees the literacy in the pilot. I don't want to speak for her, but I'm sure there's information that we can share.
Great. Any other questions?
Can I follow up on that?
Now there's more? Oh, boy.
Yeah. Well, you talked about data, and that
I
gets
saw
me
you perk
excited.
up. I saw
Yeah. First of all, congrats on a start. My daughter's super into it and excited, and she's in the portables this year, and I asked her how it was, and she was like, "Oh, they're incredible. You should see the bathrooms." So she's very excited. But from a data perspective, I just kind of want to follow up on what Leanne was saying about parents, because I do think that is a kind of a reoccurring theme that we hear, and that, obviously I feel as a parent want to know. So even beyond any kind of experimental program, I think I am curious what the plan is from if they do go into an intervention, and most kids are in some type of differentiated instruction, what that communication could look like, so that parents know that they're not just getting the same old thing or being forgotten while other kids are getting specific attention. So like, what can you kind of express what you have done, and maybe with this new data team, what potential there is for sharing some like unique insights, both from a school level but also from a student level?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. So I think we have pretty good processes in place. And we actually, for last year and then this year, we did hire in the budget, thanks to you again, we hired a new MTSS coordinator who will really help oversee that and make our good processes even better. But what we currently do is anytime a teacher has a concern over a student, whether it's reading, writing, math, social, emotional, sort of any area, the teacher is always the first person to reach out to the parent and communicate, hey, this is what I'm seeing, this is what the data looks like. And then from there, teachers work really, really hard, as you know, sort of within their classroom to provide some intervention or some differentiation, depending on what's going on. And at that sort of starting level, they're really the primary contact and primary communicators with the parents. At some point, if the student and if the teacher feels like the student needs some additional layers of intervention, it goes to an intervention team. And then if they get picked up for either tier 2 or tier 3, usually the office will communicate sort of a form letter to say, hey, your kid's been selected or chosen or might need some extra work. I can't remember the exact verbiage, but and then the teacher will continue to communicate progress and what the goals are and how things are, what it's going to look like over the next 6 to 8 weeks. When a student gets to the tier 3 level, that's when our specialists or our math and literacy specialists will communicate directly with parents and say, this is my name, this is my role, this is my experience, this is what we're going to be working on. And oftentimes those are like weekly communications, just sort of keeping the parents in the loop as best that we can. And then we often have parents that will come to our MTSS meetings and sit on our teams with us and help problem solve those tricky situations as well. So we try to keep parents informed every step of the way. There's multiple layers, and it really depends on what tier and where people are. But we try to do as good as we can and keeping parents in the loop.
Okay, and then one more facilities question, and maybe Scott's better to answer this. But
I think he is too.
My understanding is that some of the windows that were delivered are not open and shut windows, and there's going to be a plan to replace some of those so that they open and shut.
Mm-hmm.
Given the time of the year, do we have any kind of concerns with heat in those rooms? Is there any kind of challenge with leaks? Like, what's the status of that?
I can probably answer some, but Mr. Poulin probably has the better answers. So
Go ahead.
All right. So my understanding, I mean, not all of our windows open anyway. Some are just a single pane glass, and I think all of those have already been replaced. But the open and shut windows, I'm sure there's like a technical term for them, but Those ones are due to be here. I actually just heard today they're due to be here in October. I think they were back ordered, and those are all hopefully going to be replaced over Thanksgiving break or December break. So they just with supply chain and supply and demand, they just weren't here in time. So, but Scott or Jeff, maybe there's more of that.
We're going to even try to do 1 or 2 rooms at a time too, so move students and even try to accomplish it sooner than that. So, and that's what it is. It was just a issue of supply chain with the portion of the windows that do open.
But they did replace all of the framework this summer, so it's really just a matter of popping out the window and putting the new window in. So it should be relatively quick.
Here it looks great.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about environmental, like, do they get air in there? I know it can get kind of stuffy. Is it comfortable in terms of temperature, leaks and stuff like that? So that's where my mind's at. But
Yeah.
it sounds like everything else improvement-wise was great. So
I think it's been great, yeah.
So I just have a quick question. It's year 2, right, for the playground, except for the sandbox? So is it on the agenda, and what's the process for naming the playground? People have asked.
I wanted to name it last year. The kids wanted to name it, but we were told we had to wait. So it is not it's not going to be a September thing, but it is on the plan for this year to get some kid involvement and to really form a little group to name the playground. It has not been lost on us. I am ready to do that. So yeah.
I also now had time to come up with a question for you.
Let's bring it on. I'm ready.
So hopefully this will make sense. But I'm just wondering if there's anything that you can point to that has kind of made it possible to do things like adding in those responsive classroom components, the morning meeting, the closing circle, as well as the grade level meeting times for teachers and, any resources that you might need or support from us to continue to make those kind of things possible.
That's a great question. Thanks. I think, there's no more minutes in the day, right? So it's really, or there's no more early release Wednesdays. So I think it's really just Mallory and myself as a new leadership team working with our leadership teams in the building and really just setting a clear priority and a clear focus. I've talked about our 3-year plan multiple times, and I think we've used our 3-year plan to really design a schedule that has met some of our 3-year goals, and with that comes data meetings, and with that comes more responsive classroom. And so I think, pointing to one specific thing, I think our 3-year plan that our staff helped generate has been an absolute, a huge thing to help us move forward in many different areas. So that's probably, we're getting ready to renew it again here next year, which is crazy to think about, but that's probably the number one thing that's really been the most impactful, is just knowing all right, it's budget season. Let's look at the 3-year plan as a staff. What did we say we need to focus on next year? Last year, I think we accomplished, it was 75% of our year 1 goals, which I think is phenomenal because obviously this isn't everything that we do. There's a lot of other things that get added in as well. So I think the 3-year plan's probably the number one sort of guiding light for us in terms of moving things forward. Budget-wise, sort of what I haven't really got that far yet, so I'm going to reserve that. I'll put that question on in the parking lot, and I have a list on my whiteboard, but I'm not ready to share those yet. So
Okay.
yeah,
Fair enough.
but there are things. Yes, there are things.
Thank you.
Like an auctioneer, going once, going twice. All right.
Thank you so much.
You are
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
Next up is my good friend Carol.
Yes, very, very excited for Carol. And I did want to acknowledge, thanks for Bruce to bring it to our attention. There was an administrative issue with getting the agenda posted. I appreciate you. I wasn't sure there was a meeting. Well, it was, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Welcome.
Hi. Carol MacArthur, grades 4-5 principal at the middle school. So far, we're 3 days in. We've had a really smooth start to the school year. Our school building looks amazing. Freshly painted hallways, the new shiny tile on the floor. People who have been coming in over the course of the last week, just walking in the building, it's like this refreshed feeling coming in, which is amazing. So we really appreciate everyone who contributed to that. For being the first week of school, arrival and dismissal has gone exceedingly well. I should knock on some wood. Usually the first day of kindergarten throws us for a complete loop, but today was just as awesome as the last 2 days. So that's been great. Staff and students have been spending time on establishing and practicing routines. We had an assembly yesterday where we reviewed some of the school-wide expectations, and I got to do one of my favorite things, which is reading a book aloud to the school. So that was great. Students are very much looking forward to next Wednesday, which is basically the best day of the week for 2 reasons, not what you think. The first is that we'll have our first Friends Day Wednesday, which is the day of the week that students get to choose who they sit with from their grade level rather than the other days of the week when they sit at assigned tables with their classes. So they're very much looking forward to that. And the second reason is that next Wednesday will be our first visit from our therapy dog, Lou. Lou came to a school board meeting last year. She's basically the most popular being in the entire school building. Sorry, Monty. And it's always just so fun to see how her presence at the school, it just lights people's faces up. And in fact, her handler, Mrs. Waterhouse, who's our school counselor, she becomes invisible that day of the week. So in terms of our school improvement goals, you'll hear a lot of themes with what Corey shared. Our first is around emotional well-being. We know that students' academic performance is improved when they feel safe, valued, and have a sense of belonging in their classroom and in the school community. So we'll continue to utilize our daily community meeting time to support our restorative practices approach and to teach the skills of social emotional learning. Staff have been working toward implementing consistent expectations and responses to behavior in large group settings, such as the hallway, the playground, cafeteria. Those tend to be the most problematic of areas that we have in the school. Each month of the school year, we have a monthly theme to support our emotional well-being goal, and so September is safety and belonging. Our second school improvement goal is academic improvement. So we're prioritizing collaborative planning for our staff with an emphasis on delivering high-quality, research-based instruction. We're paying particular attention to the high-impact teaching strategies of feedback and engagement, and that goal came specifically from student responses on the district survey that was put out last year. We're piloting a new literacy program, similar to what Corey described. We actually have all of our 4th and 5th grade teachers piloting the same program. Last year, we did like a mini pilot where all of our teachers piloted 1 unit from 3 different programs. This year, based on staff feedback, we went all in on the same pilot for all of our students. So we're really looking to learn more about the premise behind the program, which is kind of knowledge building curriculum. So really getting kids to understand content and then learn their literacy skills through that content. So we'll be looking for ways to explicitly connect those skills and the related instructional strategies across all of our content areas. Just a side note, last year I had all of our staff, allied arts staff, teaching staff, analyze our MEA data and look at some of the released items. Would have been our 5th graders 2 years ago now. And really look at the complexity of the type of questions and the critical thinking that was required. So it wasn't so much about science content and science skills. It really did involve literacy skills of, being able to analyze a text or look at 2 different pieces of text and summarize and synthesize those. So we're looking for ways that we can incorporate our literacy pilot into other areas within our content areas. We'll continue to spend time analyzing formative and summative assessment data to inform our Tier 1 differentiated instruction, which Tim just mentioned, the differentiation piece, and obviously that goal is all around improving student achievement, both on classroom assessments as well as standardized measures. So I'm excited to be leading this meaningful work. We have an incredibly talented and dedicated staff. We have our parent night next Tuesday, where I'll look forward to speaking to parents and guardians about all things, all great things about GMS 4.5 before sending them off to hear directly from their children's teachers. So that's what I have to share with you. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Carol, I apologize because this is going to be kind of a tough one, and feel free to say that you don't have the answer. Given yesterday's tragedy, both of you brought up social emotional learning and how important that is, and I don't know if our next two grades will, or schools will get to that, but I'm just wondering if there's any data or studies out there that show that schools who do prioritize social emotional well-being the way that we are here, do they tend to be safer schools? Do they tend to address issues like this child's?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have any of the statistics committed to memory, but yes, there's a lot of data out there that when schools feel like, when students feel like they're connected directly and personally with a staff member or multiple staff members, that sense of belonging that's created within a school community, within a classroom community. I know the high school and middle school have advisory programs, like all of those opportunities for kids to feel connected, heard, known, recognized. They do cut down on things like absenteeism and the mental health concerns that we see, and some of those things are potentially what contribute to school violence. So we have, on a more practical side, we've done a lot with safety in our school buildings and, hardening up our facilities and having different protocols and procedures that we implement. But really at the core of it for us as educators is those relationships that we have with students.
Thank you. Like I said, I know that's a difficult topic, but I think it's so important to just remind everyone why social emotional learning is a huge component of what we do, what you all do. So thank you very much.
All right, I have a question. Last year, you answered this very uniquely. I asked you, is there anything that you need from us? And you were like, no, which is very rare in any of my interactions. So I'll give you that chance again. Is there anything that you need from us? Anything you want us to highlight? Anything that's like a deficit that you want us to be aware of? Obviously you have multiple chances, but anything right now that comes to mind that you want to highlight?
Well, similar to Corey, I don't have a whiteboard, but I do have a yellow notepad. And so as things have come up over the summer, I'm jotting my notes like, oh, this is something I might want to consider for the budget season. And something as simple as in our cafeteria, we had all of our 4-H staff together on the first day of school to do kind of the more routine, crisis plan, mandatory training, reminders, things of that nature. And our sound system in there is so old that it really didn't work. And thanks to Monty, who is, a musician and has his own personal equipment, he brought everything in for us and it worked like a charm. So, kind of generating lists of things. We've done so many improvements in the facility, but the middle school is getting older at this point. So thinking about that. I'm obviously sort of thinking ahead to what's going to happen the next 3 years with our staff, with curriculum. The literacy pilot that we're doing this year, the program that we've selected, is relatively expensive. We have reallocated a lot of our funds that we would have spent previously on other literacy materials toward this. But kids surrounded by literature and lots of opportunities to read different types of texts and whatnot, it's a fair investment. So, those are a few things that come to the top of my mind that we're kind of in the thick of right now. Whether or not those are the priorities you'll see come December, we'll wait to see, but.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions? Great. Thanks, Carol. All right, up next, I think there's been a lot of excitement. I don't think Monty, you and I have met yet, but I've heard a lot of great things. So welcome to our school community and welcome to the podium. Very excited.
So I'm going to work backwards off of a couple of questions, and don't ask me that question.
And just make sure for the viewers at home that,
All right.
I've heard you know how to use a mic.
Sometimes. So Carol nailed it answering that question that you had about social emotional, but when she brought it down to relationships, so the first hardcore data and training that I ran across on that was in the early 90s. So the idea of, is the data there? Yes, it is, and it's no guarantee, but that research came out of New York City schools, where there was a lot of violence in some particular schools, and the most powerful thing they did was develop relationships. Yeah, so. And since you seem data hungry, I'll quiz you for a start. So this is true and this is false, and you two have to vote too. Okay, so here's your first question. The first 2 days of school, the sixth graders attended at a rate of 98.83%. What do you think? Some of you are like, you surely made that number up. You're shaking your head. Okay, and how about this one? I'll give you one more. The eighth graders actually beat that percentage today. What do you think? Yeah, I love it that you two believe me. This is great. Yeah, today was 99.43%. And so we'll start with data. And here's the thing about attendance. Everything else in our, to me, everything else in our school improvement plan is directly affected by attendance. So I'm not going to go into the specifics of what those goals are in terms of academics, but it's really clear in a hurry that if kids are there and you're trying to impact academics, attendance makes a difference. The second thing that I would go to of behavioral things, which isn't about kids getting in trouble, but improving how kids respond and behave to things. When you're trying to establish that success looks like this and doesn't look like this, the more you're there, it's like being at soccer practice. You have more chance to learn how it works. So attendance is directly involved there. Another thing in our school improvement plan, which is based on data, has to do with morale. And so when people are there, let me give you a few just off the top things. When kids are at school regularly, when they have great attendance, they're less anxious, they're happier, they do better academically, they connect more with peers, they have less homework to take home. And then you pop that over to the teachers, there's less time you're spending trying to catch kids up and you're focusing on the kids in the classroom. So it just goes on and on and on. The last thing I would say in terms of our school improvement plan would be about a sense of community. And so obviously when we're there together, that's how you help build that. One of the things that you do with any of those, with how does attendance influence what you're trying to do with academics, behavior, morale, and I'm going to say with that, like happiness, and how do you affect a sense of community? And you do that by focusing on what you can control and not worrying about what you can't control. I shouldn't say not worry about it, but you don't spend like time and energy there because it takes away from what you can be doing. Let's see, what else about that before I talk about kids? Just that when it comes to the work, it's work and it's strategic, and that's the whole reason we have that plan. So kids, 3 words. This is as a first-year person just observing. They're happy, they're enthusiastic, and they're incredibly polite. Just think of telling groups of 7th graders, let's go through the rules for computers, and they're like, okay. I'm like, okay, I'll take it. That's been great. The building, when I interviewed, the first thing I noticed was this lobby, like step 1. And I think the first thing Scott ever said to me, just so you know, this summer we're going to be blank, blank. I was like,
Yeah, that's awesome, because it's just so welcoming. Yeah. Staff, everything I've seen is about welcoming and supportive, and it's in the activities. It's like, hey, we have 5 extra minutes. Let's go on out and practice locker combinations, which is a big deal, believe it or not, but it is, and it always has been. So last, I'm going to say something about administration, and that is, so Mari, as you know, has like left this incredible layout for me to get off to a good start, and then is already impacting work with what she's doing at the district, excuse me, and also knowing that I can just call anytime. And then Jason is just like, yep, how can I help? Carol is right next door. I thought I'd make it through today without a question, but then I was like, hey, wait, what about tonight? You know, and so every day it's more questions. And then there's that DLT, District Leadership Team, which is about support. And then the same with the district office. So welcoming and supportive is just everywhere. My first year as an administrator, this is scary, was 1989. I've never seen this level of just support and welcome and a desire to be amazing, to have an amazing district. So we're off to a good start, and I'm super glad to be here. All right, questions, what do you got?
Megan?
I have a question for you, and it's, hi, welcome. Glad to finally see you. And it's sort of piggybacking a little bit off of what Kim said, but in less of a school safety way and more of a social emotional learning way. And Carol, I didn't ask you because I feel like I've already asked you a little bit, and we will talk about it in the wellness committee. But I'm curious about how we're communicating a cell phone policy to kids and parents. The high school, I think, came out with their policy this year, and I've actually had feedback from parents that they love it. They were so happy to sort of have a cut and dry policy with phones and bags. But have spoken with some other parents in the middle school who feel like they don't know what the policy is, and those that do feel like their kids are definitely not going to follow it. And I ask because there is so much attention right now on emotional well-being, particularly of girls, when it comes to social media and device access. So I'm kind of curious about how that's going to play into the year. And I ask also knowing that it's going to come up a lot, and it already has, in just this arena. Just a little question, just a softie for you, huh?
No, I really appreciate that. Something, I'm just going to do this as a point of research. If you and I go to dinner and I put my phone down and have it silenced,
yeah,
the level of conversation is less deep than if we don't have those present. Oh. There's some research for you. So that's something that I mentioned to staff, that even if I'm walking through and my phone's buzzing, I want to get out in the hallway. When I'm there, I want to pay attention, but I do need to have it with me. So in the computer talk, we were really clear with the kids. It's not just bell to bell, it's arrival until that last bell, and then they should be in backpacks. I have not seen a phone in 3 days. I've been in every classroom. So we were really clear with the kids. I kind of role played, this is what it'll look like when I see your phone out at school, and where do you guys think you'll pick that phone up? Okay, yeah, it's in the office. When will you get that? Staff, they're being very careful about not having their phones out. Even an apology, I walked in a room and a teacher was in like, whoa, there's no kids in here. I'm like, I didn't know I was that scary, but I'm working on it. I think it's a huge thing because none of us can focus with that buzzing all the time. And if my buzzed right now, my brain says, did he make that flight home or not? You know, that's how we work. So I am so glad you asked, because we need to communicate that better with parents, so we will. It's in the policy, but what's in a policy and what happens doesn't always line up. And so far, yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah, I realized until it really came up last year over the summer, I wasn't aware either. And I have a current middle schooler and one that's now in high school. And I was like, what did this look like? And they're like, oh yeah, we don't touch our phones in the middle school. Like that just, for my child, they're like, that's just a known thing. Like they're in the bags and nobody has them out. And I was like, oh, good to know. So, cause I didn't as a parent know either.
Yeah.
So communication, I think, is going to continue to be important.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Other questions?
I just was curious about smartwatches. Are you seeing smartwatches, and are we wrapping that into our cell phone policy? Because they can do as much as.
Yeah. I've been surprised that I don't see more, you know, and sometimes, like, I think policy is important, but sometimes a problem is a problem when it's a problem.
Yeah.
And so teachers are going to notice if a kid's there, and there's not many. So if it's a problem, I'm very comfortable with that conversation, including with the parents, to just say we want a great learning environment, and if your kid's phone is, or their wrist or whatever, or their necklace or implant before long,
Right.
if it's buzzing,
Exactly.
we're not in the middle of learning. Last night I just got, I think it's Ed Leadership, that I got 2 journals last night, and one of them has an amazing article from a guy. It's just 2 pages. I might send it to you all, but he's been teaching for a long time, tried to deal with phones in his own way, but now they're just putting them away. And he said the kids, high school kids, are having so much more fun. So if they have downtime, he's allowing them to like play chess or something like that. And the kids are commenting on how much happier they are, not worrying about scrolling or accidentally scrolling, because, you know, once you start, it's like, just maybe there's something down there. So, all right, what else do you have?
Other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. Last but not least.
Hi, everybody. Carl Francis, my 3rd year at Greeley High School. Very happy to be here. Pros and cons to going last. You know, it's definitely hard because we have such great quality administrators in the district. And, you know, in Monty now I see is pretty good at just kind of going for it. So I've got to, I thought I was pretty good, but now I'm going to pick up my game a little bit. So opening a school, I felt really good about it. You know, I took some time off this summer, which was great. Came in, and it all started with the sense of support that I've received from the central office, from Scott and Jeff, you know, and the entire central office, actually. But as far as school improvement, significant things have happened in our building and the facilities over the last 3 years. Significant. Safer, aesthetically, classroom learning environment, significant improvements that need to be recognized. So thank you very much for that. This summer, what's going on here?
There's a volume. There's like a voice going on.
It's okay. Would you mind just turning up so I can hear my voice at the same time? I need one of those radio pieces there.
No one else hears anything.
You got my back. I'm not crazy. The students might say something different, but I'm not crazy. Thank you to the grounds crew. Thank you to the facilities. Thank you to the custodians, right? Thank you so much for the incredible work. The school is in great shape, and it couldn't be done without your support and their support. So please give a high five next time you see anybody in those groups. Paint walls of the whole school were looking great. The themes are good. We have doors, we have locks, we have security cameras, we have new windows in the cafeteria for daylight and air. Believe it or not, it is wonderful. We have a new outdoor patio. Take a look at that thing. It's spectacular. There are so many positive things happening, plus all of the support for curriculum and textbooks and professional development, all the things that we need. And before you ask me, Tim, I feel like we're, when I advocate, you and they do the best they can to provide everything that we need. So I'm feeling pretty good. All right, opening a school was incredible. The educators are strong. The educators are invested. The educators came in for 3 days of serious preparation for the school year, right? So we've got good, strong educators in our school. They're working hard. They are doing their trainings. They are preparing their curriculum. They're collaborating together on how do we make this better. So strong educators working hard on the first 3 days of school. Kids are coming in with a positive attitude. They're coming in feeling good, feeling happy, great energy in the building. I'm feeling really good about the start of school. So that's how we opened. We opened with a freshman orientation. Thank you for supporting that on the school calendar. It's important and it's critical to dedicate a full day of talking to our 9th grade students, our new Greeley Rangers, about who we are and who we want to be, and give them a supportive welcome and boost to their educational experience in our school. It is critically important, and thank you for that support. We moved into 3 days of advisory schedules, which it's a traditional school day schedule, but it has an advisory day built into all 3 of the days this week, which allows for connection, it allows for relationships, it allows for a class meeting every single day to establish clear communication, expectations, baselines of who we are and who we want to be. It also allows me to get in front of kids and tell them how much I appreciate them and can't wait to get to know them and spend more time with them. So that's pretty special. All right, moving on. Simplified the school improvement plan this year for you, kept it a lot going on, but these are the highlighted areas, right? These are the highlighted areas of student learning, climate, culture, SEL, and safety, systems, and security. Student learning, we also were able to hire an MTSS coordinator this year, which is kind of cool. So that person is going to be looking at a comprehensive perspective of our building and the supports and the intervention available in our building, and looking at, as an umbrella, all those areas of screening, all those areas of instruction, of intervention, data collection, progress monitoring, all those things, which is incredible. We have Kim McDonald is here, our IB coordinator. We also are going to start thinking about our re-evaluation preliminary planning, right? So it's not happening now. We're starting now to think about 26, 27 when we're going to have to do that work. So that's part of our plan this year, to start prepping and thinking about the planning for that, because it's an integral part of our school and who we are. This next one, I'm super excited about. I've got some teachers in the audience here too, but department instructional goals. We've dedicated, last spring, we said, go back to your departments and really identify areas of need and areas of improvement, areas that you are see value in and are committed to and want to dedicate next year in professional development time in. The departments have provided detailed goals, and we have 7 or 8 early release days dedicated to that work in the school year. So we are super excited about what we're going to be accomplished during that time. Climate, culture, SEL. Kim, it's all about that, right? It's all about that relationship building. It's all about that culture building. It's all about us. It's all about feeling a sense of community that was mentioned here, relationships. It's about knowing our kids and enjoying our kids and supporting our kids and helping them to build and develop healthy lifestyles and have a little fun along the way, right? So that's still part of our goals. Cell phones are a part of that cultural piece, right? It's not about, culture is more about relations. It's also about relationships. It's all about the adults in the building. Are the adults in the building getting what they need and feeling like we're responsible to give them what they need to do their jobs well, right? There are some areas that I was identified to me of need improvement in the school. And over the last 3 years, we've been working on those. And that helps with culture of adults, right? The adults in the building need to feel supported and involved and feel value in what we're doing. And that's part of culture. Cell phones, we're all in. We're just getting started. I've had 2 groups of kids approach me, but to be honest, those are the kids that I thought might approach me. But everyone else seems to be doing okay. We keep going. You got this. It's going to be okay. They're doing fine. Advisory programming content is still a forefront of importance, what we're planning on doing. We're going to have Lawrence's Alexander. We're going to step it up this year. We're going to have kids help design our EDI and inclusivity and our work that we're doing this year and deliver that to peers. So he's going to help us, we're going to have committees of students talking about the PD that we're doing. We're going to train kids to deliver it to their classmates. How cool is that? So that's the 3rd year we're stepping up with that. Safety, security systems, school day schedule, and I know it's on everybody's mind. It's on our mind too. We're going to spend this year, we have a dedicated committee to that work. We spent last year looking at it. This year we're going to dig into it, and by the spring we'll have a recommendation to put in place for the following year moving forward. So next year is when the new schedule will be put into place. I'm going to end there. Plenty of other good stuff.
Thank you, Carl. Not to put Katie and Sophia on the spot, but here's your chance. Questions for Carl or reflections on your week?
Can you guarantee me a parking spot?
All depends on how supportive you are in this role.
So sad. So supportive.
We might, Katie, I have to be consistent with all students, so I cannot guarantee you anything. I do like food. You know, just saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to say on the cell phones, okay, so like it was a little bit sad reaching into my pocket and being like, no, it's not there. Like, not that I wanted to look at it, it's just that like it's just like not with me. But then I had a study hall in the library today, and it was 3rd period study hall, which means I get to miss my lunch and I get an extra half hour of study hall time, which is like revolutionary. And it was like, wow, I didn't have my phone and I had to do my work. And it was actually like, and like if I wanted to get distracted, I could get distracted by my friends. And then I'd be like, okay, maybe I should get back to work. But it was like, I think like at the end of the day, it's better for everyone. Mm-hmm. But I think also like whenever I saw like Miss Perkinson or like teachers reminding kids to like put your phone, like there wasn't really pushback. Everyone was just kind of like, okay. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't like a big deal. Everyone's kind of just grumbling about it. But like for the first study hall where like I could have been on my phone, mm-hmm. It was pretty like productive, so I'll give you that.
I have to admit that, huh?
I agree with that too. I noticed so many more conversations in classes, like so much more cohesive. Like kids are actually like wanting to get their word in, and like they're not distracted by anything. And especially like a lot of my classes this year were not really on our laptops, and I know that like technically you can text whoever on your laptop, like whatever, but we're really not on our laptops like at all. So we're like having a lot more conversations that are like really rich, and like everyone's trying to get their word in and everyone's like really excited about it. So I like that a lot, and I love when my classes are like conversation based, but I also love when people actually participate, and so many people are participating. So I think it's working great.
Thank you for that feedback, and we're committed to getting it right. Staff meeting, where our agenda is what's working well and what's not working well, and how do we ensure that we do it right. So it's a pleasure to work with all of you, and thank you for your time.
No, don't run.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry, you're
No.
not.
You got
you're
more
not
questions?
Done yet.
All
Nice
right.
try, though.
Okay, thank you so much.
Just a quick clarification,
Yeah.
I think, Carl, on the IB. Can you say a little bit more about what that is that you all are starting to prepare for?
Yeah, it's our international baccalaureate, and it's kind of like NEASC for IB. So it's like an accreditation. It's just IB coming around every 5 years to ensure that we're have the standards that are expected and that we're doing a quality job with our instruction. And it's really about us thinking about, personally, what are the areas that we want to improve in, and looking at the standards that they've provided us and start thinking about it and doing that work for when people start asking us questions and evaluating us. So we want to get ahead of that because it's important and ensure that we're doing what we can do for kids. So it's a couple years out, but this year is just starting to think about that.
But it's not reevaluating whether we should have an
No,
IB program.
it's
It's evaluate.
I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah.
I was wondering the same thing. So
No, it's no evaluation. We believe strongly in what we're delivering.
It's just
and
that
we're
we're
proud
being
of.
evaluated for.
Yeah, we're
implementation.
very
Okay.
proud of what we're doing and what we've been able to accomplish, and we're not wavering in any way. It's about just ensuring that we're doing the quality that we want to do.
Thank you.
I have a couple things I just want to interject first. I knew these young ladies would be strong leaders and brave to say such things out loud about cell phones in front of your peers.
I'm sure they're all watching.
Choosing student leaders, it's working. So thank you for speaking out what you felt. Another question, though, for you, and I don't know if Scott's better to answer this or not, but the doors, I'm glad to hear there are doors, you were saying. That's great. You got some more doors. Are you specifically referencing the ones between the gym and the school so that they're separate?
There's lots of improvements. So yes, and probably yes to your next question, but it's antiquated old doors that we needed to improve the security of the building, and it's the math wing replaced, science wing. Those have been there for 40 years. I don't know, a long time. We have clear glass front on those. We have swipe access to those. It'll now restrict. It's on a timer, so we can program when those doors are open and who has access to them. So a lot of traffic in the building at night, and we're just trying to really secure the building and classroom environments. So those were added. That main door between the athletic area and the long hallway leading down to the library, that has been replaced, I'm very happy to say. Instant increase in safety, security, visibility, control of entering spaces, swipe access to the gym area. You know, that was one area that we thought was an area for need for security. We invested a lot into who can get into the gym and access points to the gym, locks there. We have the vestibule to the door area, to the pool area. That vestibule needs work, and that work, those doors are ordered and will be here this year. That we're going to make sure that those go in. That's a significant upgrade. There are a couple other locations that we're trying to get approved in the building, but overall, those are the doors that have been in place that we feel really good about. Need you to come take a look at those. They look really nice.
Yeah, those are the key ones I was wondering about, the security, the athletic area and the long hallway.
We feel like now that there's the ability to lock down one side of the building, right? And to control and have secure, manipulate that on either side, and access to the second floor, right? That's another thing we're working on for evening stuff. So we're really working hard on that element of safety and security.
The only other part connected to that is the pool area. It's not yet up and running. And what about the locker rooms and the showers? All fixed, or how's that going?
My understanding is the showers are fixed and that we're getting the right fixture units for that. The whole pool itself, the walls around the entire pool, that's been entirely repainted. So the pool is really bright now. It has a couple of nice maroon stripes running around it. So the pool area has been renovated somewhat, and we'll get into the locker rooms and make sure everything's okay.
Okay, there was a notice, though, on today's
Yep.
calendar that it's not open yet.
No, it's not, because we're still waiting for some of the things to dry and some of the things to be taken care of. So,
Okay.
and it's not uncommon for it to be closed during a period of time as we're trying to get things done in there.
Okay.
So.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I know you
It's okay.
probably want to get going. I was just curious about the silo program. I've loved seeing, on social media, highlighting each student. Where are we at for this year with the silo
We
program?
hired a new member of our staff. Her name is Katie Schindler. She was doing similar role at Sanford. We're very fortunate to have her with experience, and she's excited to get going on that work. So we have students in queue, loaded, ready to go. We have funding to support it. We have community members that are very supportive. So we're ready to roll. I'm excited for that too.
Great, thank you. Okay, I think we're good. I don't know.
Thank you so
And
much.
Yes, thank you. We know it's been a very long few weeks and with school starting, and really appreciate your time this evening and learning about how everything's gone. And yeah, an extraordinary amount of work went on this summer to get us here, and we appreciate everything that you've done to welcome the students this week. So thank you. All right. So we did move these around in case you guys wanted. I mean, you're always welcome to stay, and please come back often. But that's why we also reordered the presentation. So I know you've heard the strategic priorities at least a few times so far.
Yeah, I just want to thank the principals, each of the principals, for being here tonight and doing an amazing job starting the school year off. To thank you to all of them, our whole leadership team, for doing an amazing job. So we're going to let them go so they can get up tomorrow morning and do it again.
I know we have an item for action later on about the French trip.
Yes, we should probably move that up.
Is that okay?
We also have two teachers.
Yes.
Who probably want to get up in the morning and come to work. Yes.
So if I can get a motion to, let's say, I guess we'll go with the motion, and then we can welcome you to the podium to explain a little more. So can I get a motion to approve the trip request for the French exchange field trip request as will be presented?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Christina. And yes, welcome you to the podium to present on the French exchange trip.
Good evening. Thank you so much for moving us up a little bit. I appreciate that. So Kim McDonald and
Taylor Poulin.
We're the French teachers, along with Kevin Donahue, and we are presenting. It's actually the Quebec trip immersion weekend, and in November for juniors and seniors this year. So we are including juniors in this, knowing that the last year, for example, we had a small number of seniors going. It was somewhat cost prohibitive, and so if we change to every other year for this Quebec immersion weekend, and join the 11th and 12th graders in this this experience, that hopefully it will be more cost effective and a larger group. So we have the field trip request in front of you. Hopefully with the information about the curriculum standards and the activities that we that we look to do. It is a historical and cultural and linguistic immersion weekend. Our guides are, we ask them to be guiding in French, so the students are listening to the Quebecois accent the whole weekend. We use Jump Street tours for the itinerary and all of the travel arrangements and hotel, and they also have the insurance for parents to purchase if they'd like to. We invite adult chaperones to join us. We have normally we have a I think it's an 8-to-1 ratio, 7-to-1, 8-to-1 ratio. So the 3 teachers will go. But if additional adults, parents want to join, they're welcome to do so. And then you also have the itinerary. It's the draft itinerary. There could be some changes with that, but it's in. So our annual immersion weekend, we're probably going to be it's going to become a biannual. Is that the biannual immersion weekend, starting with this year, alternating with hopefully the French exchange in France for 1 year, and then the Quebec immersion the other year. That's our hope.
And so the reason to move it to every other year is just is it around numbers and costs? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a couple other questions. How many years? You've been doing this for a long time, right?
Many years. Pat Tebow brought students up yearly before I even came in 2008. So it's been quite a few years now, yeah.
And have you considered opening up to even younger, maybe high schoolers as well? I know this past year we sent a group of, I think it was 8th graders, right, to Spain, I think, if I'm recalling. And if you've considered even younger high school students for this trip.
We haven't. We're opening it up to the juniors and the seniors. It had, for many years, it had been a senior trip for the culminating years dedicated to the language, and it could be something that opens up at another point. This year, I think we're looking to the 11th and 12th graders, see how it goes. We've got 60 students, possible students in 11th and 12th grade French classes.
Great.
So that's, it's hopeful it will make our mark of our goal of 40 is what our goal is.
And that helps keep costs a little lower with them. Okay, great. Do others have questions?
There's often the question about cost and supporting students. And so again, we ask students to, when we present this, we ask them to talk with us if there are our financial needs. And we do have, there exist in the community some resources to help families out. We are only 2 months out of this trip, so it doesn't allow a lot of time for students to earn their own money, like throughout the summertime, for example. They often know that this trip is coming up their senior year, but we also, having the juniors, that will be new for them. But we want to encourage them to keep the communication open, for sure, because there are some ways that we can be supporting them.
Right. Okay.
Just had one comment. I know we have a driver that would love to go again.
I know who it is.
I think that, we're actually gonna put that out to the students and the families. This cost includes a charter coach, which, for 5.5 to 6 hours is more comfortable than a school bus. But if it means bringing the cost down significantly, like last year, they were willing to make that make that decision for the whole group, for the interest of the whole group. And I loved the support, and I loved our chauffeur. He was fabulous. So
We'll give you the newest bus in the fleet.
God says.
It's being recorded, so yeah.
Oh, true, right.
Great.
Other questions?
Any other questions? Great. Thank you, and thank you for continuing this program. So, all in favor? Great. It's unanimous.
Thank you so much for your support.
Merci.
Thank you. Okay. So now you're up.
I just want to thank Kim and Taylor for coming tonight and presenting this, and Kevin as well for all three of you going on this trip, because this is one of those exchange programs that the teachers are willing to put the time in and help the students, and it's like the Hashi exchange, whatever. We're trying to culturally build, and it really takes our staff to do that. So thank you, both of you, and Kevin, for doing that.
Although it would be really nice if the people of Quebec would participate and not just say, "Oh, your accents, just speak English,"
which is what we ran into.
As Leanne mentioned, this is a little bit backwards in terms of having the strategic priorities presented first, and then the principals doing the SIPs. But obviously, we do not want the principals to sit around and listen to the strategic priorities, which they already base their SIPs off of anyway. But this is just for this year. This goes off of the current strategic plan. And I would like to start by just saying something that Jim Collins mentioned in Good to Great, the book Good to Great. There are two things in effective organizations, whether it's schools, churches, companies, corporations, whatever, why and the what. And this also comes from Simon Sinek, who often talks about the why, which is the commitment to your mission, which is the core values of the organization. We have a mission statement. We have core values that have been in place for at least a couple of decades in this district. And then the what is the strategic plan. So why do we do what we do? Why do we exist as a public institution for the greater good? And what is it that helps us to continue making improvements in our practices, in our structures? And that is the strategic plan, which is goes back to 2018 now. So our mission statement is to, and I feel it imperative to read it actually as much as possible. I've been reading it more for people as we present it, not just skip over it, but to guide all students as they acquire enthusiasm for learning, assuming responsibility for their education, achieving academic excellence, and discovering and attaining their personal best. And the personal best part is the part that I like to emphasize. Because I really feel like, and that's the last part of this mission statement, I think it was intentional when it was developed many years ago, but just making sure that all students have that piece, that they can personally develop themselves in areas that we offer in schools. And that's the point of public education. So again, just a reminder that the current strategic plan that has been in place since 2018 has 4 bucket areas: skills for the 21st century, early childhood education, every student college and career ready, and wellness, foundation for teaching and learning. And they're not in any particular order. In fact, we've put them in a circle sometimes so that there is no apparent order. So often we put wellness first before everything else, so it really just depends on the presentation. And this is something just about when the principals talked about their school improvement plans, or we call them site improvement plans when we're talking about departments, which you'll be hearing from the district directors at your next regular meeting, who also have site improvement plans. This is kind of the piece that visually can show you that our foundation is our mission in our district. There are vision statements that were developed, again, at least 2 decades ago. and approved by the boards at that time. Core values, the district has all of these. They're on our website. You can look at them and also help other people understand what those are. I didn't put all these into the presentation. We'll be here all night. And then from there, once we have a mission, vision, and core values, the foundation on top of that becomes your strategic plan, which is the board-approved strategic plan, in this case, from 2018. And on top of the strategic plan are priorities annually that are developed based on the strategic plan and what the work is next in that plan. And that's what you've been hearing from the principals tonight, is their annual priorities. And also related to that are the board goals, which I know Leanne will be discussing those tonight as well. So you have those pieces, that next layer of foundation, the strategic plan, priorities each year, and then the board goals, which support the mission, vision, and core values. And then layered on top of that are the superintendent's goals. I have professional goals that obviously are aligned to making sure that our strategic plan is carried out. That's a major responsibility of my position. And you heard from the principals talking about site improvement plans, and again, the district directors have theirs as well. And in order to make all this work, obviously administrators and all of our staff members have their own goals. So our staff members have goals that are aligned to all of these things. So you kind of look at it, and in one piece, we're lining up to the mission of our district. And these are support mechanisms between the mission and goals that we all individually have as staff members in our district in supporting the board goals, the annual priorities, strategic plan. And just, it's another way of thinking about how does this system work together to try to improve what our practice is. So these are the big priorities for 2014-15 that are being recommended to the board tonight for action. These, again, come from the strategic plan. They're aligned to the strategic plan. And I would say 80% of what you're going to hear in the next 5 minutes or so is work that has been continued from at least the previous year, if not longer. So it's not a lot of new work. It's just getting deeper and continuing the work. Portrait of a Greeley Learner is something that started last year. Again, tied to, and you can see the icon on the page just telling you what bucket this is in. This is the 21st century. These are portable skills for the 21st century. What skills do we want all of our graduates to attain before leaving us? So what the Portrait of a Learner committee is doing, and there's a work committee, and we have a couple of board members on there as well. Leanne and Annika are on there, and hopefully I'm not missing anyone. Did I miss someone? No. Okay. Are on this, actually, Sophia, were you on that? No, I'm trying to remember. This work group will be headed up by Mari Trebilcock this year in her new role to help lead it, with Lawrence Alexander continuing to consult. What are those things that we're already doing that are common to students throughout our system? And what are things that we don't have in place that we want to make sure we have in place, so that we can say that if you're a Greeley graduate, Sophia is a Greeley graduate 2025, we can say that Sophia has done certain things along the way that are common with other students, and that we can say as a portrait of kind of what we consider to be a Greeley learner here. Not talking about the personal best all the time in this part of the priorities, but talking about those common skills that we think all students need to be able to learn. So this year it's really finalizing the POL and using the school level work. The schools did a lot of work. There's a lot of staff members that are on this work group, as well as board members, and just finalizing the work that was already done and getting it into more of a district narrative that will be sent to the board for approval. Actually, we'll go to the curriculum committee first and then to the board for approval. The next major area for focus this year for priorities is safety and security. Again, these shouldn't sound foreign because you're hearing the principals do this. If I had done the presentation first, you would have heard these things and then heard the principals reiterating those things. So hopefully you'll see the threads throughout this. For this year, we've been working a lot on safety and security, as you know, since the strategic plan was put into place. We completed, the Safety and Security Committee completed the District Safety and Security Emergency Plan overhaul last year. Significant project, huge. Actually, it was a 2-year process, but last year was very intense. And we have first responders on that group. We have board members, we have staff members, we have administrators who work on that Safety and Security Committee and meet regularly. This year we're introducing what's called Brightcast, or it also morphed into another vendor name, but basically it's the ability for staff to be able to communicate with each other in the event of emergency. If our PA system is not working or inoperable, or the people who are operating it are not able to operate it because of an emergency, we have to have alternative ways to get information to staff and from staff. And so our tech department worked on purchasing this as part of the Safety and Security Committee's goals this year. Another one that has come up a lot is cybersecurity. We're in the midst of developing a cybersecurity plan for the district. The tech department is leading that work and just making sure that we've got something in place. As we know, cybersecurity is becoming more and more of a concern. Our basic cybersecurity is handled through the state of Maine. The libraries are the place where we get our basic cybersecurity. But locally, there's other things that we need to be doing, and so that is the plan that we're working on. And then obviously Alice Year 3 is something where we have trained all of our staff. We've also done introductory training for all of our students developmentally. Our new staff members were all trained before school started this year, who come into the district just to make sure that they have that basic 2.5-hour hands-on training with our SROs. The next major bucket is supporting our staff. As you know, we have a supporting our staff plan. This year, we'd like to focus more on the onboarding, retention, and staff feedback. We have reintroduced exit surveys for staff who leave our district. We did that prior to COVID, and we stopped doing that, and we've reintroduced that last spring. Any staff member who left us after January 1st, 2024, was sent a link for feedback on why they might be leaving, and then also offered an exit interview with an administrator. So that's something that we have, and we're looking at that feedback, and we'll be summarizing it as well. And supporting our students, you heard the principals talking about this a lot. There's 2 major areas. We've worked a lot since the pandemic on emotional safety. Each school, as you heard tonight, has developed a SIP priority around that. So I won't go into that in detail right now. And then reducing chronic absenteeism. Our chronic absentee numbers, like many districts in the country, have been elevated since the pandemic. There's certain groups of students that have just not been able to make it back to school on a regular basis, and our numbers are actually improved last year, but they're not where we would like those numbers to be. In the curriculum area, we have a new curriculum director of academic services, and Mari will be talking about her SIP at the next regular meeting. But again, you heard the principals talking about literacy and math, the literacy pilot, math sequence on a district perspective, that literacy pilot at the elementary level, and then K through 12, pre-K to 12, looking at writing. Writing is something that the state no longer assesses. And after they stopped assessing it 3 or 4 years ago, our writing focus also kind of dropped a little bit. I wouldn't say dropped, but changed. And we'd like to get back to where we were and make sure that writing is a major focus. We know that writing is a major success indicator for students going into post-secondary education. And then in the math area, from the district perspective, all of our math specialists, we have several in the district, who also work with students and staff, aligning and developing the whole math scope and sequence. We've purchased several new programs that the board has supported over the years and materials, but in terms of a cohesive look at the entire math program from beginning to end, we have not done that for many years. So Marvi will be leading that work this year. And then, of course, One Campus, One Campus project. This is, I'm not going to go over this because I think it's pretty familiar to everyone. But at the end, you can see the capital facilities projects. There was, how much money, Scott? 1.3 million was spent or so this summer. And Scott will be providing a presentation to the board in October, summarizing all the capital projects that were done. This was outside of the One Campus project that was approved by voters in June. But these projects are significant, and they, you've heard the principals say they've made us a major difference in terms of culture and climate as well, to have buildings that are welcoming in terms of infrastructure. But of course, the project itself and the building committee and the artificial turf subcommittee, I'll be hearing more about that tonight, and getting those projects certainly are already underway, but we have a lot of work to do.
I want to mention, all of these projects were approved as part of our capital transfer at the district budget meeting. So
Right.
we had transferred these funds over to our capital reserve account.
Right. All the funds for the summer, just reminding you that there's a process for getting funding from the voters and getting that board approved before it goes to the voters, which we did at the district budget meeting. Thank you, Scott, for reminding. And I won't go through the schedule because I know it was reviewed July 18th. I did go through the schedule in detail with the entire staff on the first day because I just want everyone to be able to see visually where things are going to come into play. And even things like you'll see in 2027, just naming the fact that Greeley Middle School 4 or 5 is closing in June of 27. So that school, which has been in place for 10 years and by 2027 will be 13 years, will cease to operate, and we'll have a new grade configuration. Same thing with Mabel I. Wilson School, same thing with Greeley Middle School, which will become a 5-8 facility and not a 6-8 facility. Again, you've seen this. This is just a reminder that you'll hear more about this tonight, the building committee and the turf subcommittee, but also the other pieces that play into the One Campus project over the next year. A little more detail on the supporting our staff plan. Again, a lot of these things have been in place. This is year 2. The greens are the areas that we already have in place, and many of them we've had in place for a number of years. The yellows are the areas that we'll be investing a little bit more time and energy in this year. 90-day rounding meetings, that's for new staff members in our district. Just having a touch base, a little bit more of a formal touch base after 90 days on the job, no matter what role they're in the district with their supervisor. Increasing staff choice in PD. We know that has been a survey item from staff, and it's also been just verbally articulated with administrators that they need more choices in PD, especially outside the district. And PD around student choice and learning, and that comes from the student surveys. There were a lot of questions last year, if you recall, on the student stakeholder survey that were given that was a low area at all levels of the survey. So that was an area that we know needs attention. And then the exit surveys being reinstated, and the exit interviews also being reinstated this spring. And then just as a footnote, the strategic plan is 2018 to the current year, and it's time to develop a new strategic plan. Not that the work is completed or ever will be, and it doesn't have to be thrown out. A strategic plan can be the current plan, but it needs to be a formal review of the strategic plan, which has not happened since really 2017 to 18. So it's been many years, and a lot of that was the pandemic and shifting gears during those years to meet the needs during that time, but not dropping the strategic plan. So that is something that I'll be bringing to the board, a process only, just a process, for approval, and that will be later this year that I'll be introducing that. Again, I'm not going to go through all these because you'll see this, and I'm going to go through each of these pieces in January and in June. And so these are aligned to the priorities, the buckets that I just went through. This is a little more detail, the actual steps, the physical steps that we are going to be monitoring And so I'll be updating the board in January as to where we are with progress on all of the ways that we are meeting those priorities that I've outlined, and including, like the last one, strategic planning and getting a process ready for the board to review and approve. The deliverables for the strategic priorities this year, again, tonight, draft priorities for board approval. Tonight you heard from the principals and their site improvement plans, and on October 3rd you'll hear from the district directors. Scott, Mari, and Julie will be talking about the district SIPs. On January 16th, I'll come back with a progress update for you on the priorities, and on June 5th, I will provide a year-end progress summary to the board as to how we did. I guess that's the last slide.
Thank you. I really appreciate you bringing this forward, and I know as a board we've had an opportunity to review this previously, but I want to give another opportunity if there's any questions. It looks like Christina.
I just have one quick question. The Brightcast feature for the teachers, is that through their phones?
So it's an optional app that staff can download if they want to have it on their phone.
For security.
Yep.
So students will be aware that teachers have that, so if in the event of something they need to look at their phones.
Right, and we haven't rolled that out yet, so we'll be rolling that out in October.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions?
And just a reminder, we also have the Sandy Hook anonymous app. We're going to be putting more communication out about it because we just need to remind people that we have that. We have received many tips since we introduced that in March, but it's been something that we've been able to follow up on very concretely since March.
Great. Yeah, and just putting it back out, and so everyone has it as far as their awareness goes, that there's the option and opportunity to be able to report those is really important. So thank you. Any other questions?
I just wanted to say that I was watching the news last night about that tragedy, and one thing that me and my mom were talking about was that they implemented this new like thing on the teachers' tags.
Yes.
that we found really interesting, and my mom was like, you should bring that up tomorrow.
Yep.
And so that's what I'm doing, but they had implemented it the week before, and that's
Yes.
how it was able to be diffused so quickly. And so I know that's like obviously a really big thing to change and even think about, but I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
It's something that we actually met with the vendor, that same vendor, a year ago.
Oh, wow.
The Safety and Security Committee twice met with that vendor virtually. I met with the vendor in person. We put it into the initial budget proposal last year, and it didn't get through the budget process for a variety of reasons. But it is something the Safety and Security Committee is committed to pushing that again as part of the budget process. But that exact vendor is the one that we looked at. And it basically has, like in an airport, if there's an emergency, there's an audio message that comes over, but there's also lighting that lights up in each space, and that's exactly what they were using. I am very much in favor of doing that. Yarmouth just put it in, I think, a year ago. Bangor Schools put it in as well, and I think Lewiston Schools have put it in Maine. Those are the districts that I know of. But I very much want to have that in our system as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
I appreciate you bringing that
thank
back
you.
up, Katie.
I have a question. One of my clients is a firefighter in Yarmouth, and he asked me, I don't know, why our doors and windows are not numbered similarly to theirs.
That has been a safety and security conversation too. I don't know, Scott, do you want to take it, or do you want me to?
Oh, go ahead.
I'll take it. So we have been working with the fire department here in Cumberland and North Yarmouth, both of them, because they're on the safety and security committee. Both chiefs are on there. And that's something that, as a project, there was actually a project that was going to get done to have the numbers put on every space. That project was going to be done through, I think, the fire department here. And it was during the pandemic, if I remember correctly. It never got done. So that is a item on our list. We have a running list of items that we need to do. It's on our safety and security list.
Given recent events, could it be moved up?
I think it will be an item pretty quickly on that.
You've got a meeting coming up.
Yeah, we do have a meeting.
Safety and security, so.
Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions?
I have one more question, sorry. So our college enrollment rates are exceptionally high. It's like very impressive, especially compared to the state. And I wonder how much the portrait of a greedy learner, trying to figure out, like, that name has changed a number of times, but how much is it informed by the success of our enrollment rates, persistence rates? Like how much do you guys look back at alumni and who's being successful, why are they successful, where are they going? How much does that tie into it?
That hasn't really been much of a conversation with that group. I think it's more, what are we doing right now that's common to all students across our district, and what do we need to fill the gaps in? That's really been the focus of our Portrait of a Learner. But we do have very high rates in our district. You know, it's anywhere from high 80s to mid 90s, depending on the class that goes through. And I think there's something could be gained from hearing from what do we need students to do. We do know that writing is an area that we need to push more in our district. Not that we don't push writing, but I think it's something we need to focus on more. But presentation skills, a lot of it is the 21st century skills that research is saying students have to have before they leave high school. We haven't specifically reached out to our alumni and done that.
Well, it's very impressive. So hopefully even that program, it's hard to believe that those numbers go much higher, but it'd be very impressive if they do. So that's something to watch for. That's exciting.
And Tim is referencing also the data that we have on our website. We'll be doing an annual data report to the board this fall, which we always do. It'll be in October this year, a little earlier. But on the website, anybody, and people ask this a lot, where can I find information about MSAD 51? Well, our website's a great place. And if you go to the annual report part of our website and you go to the bottom of that, there is a link. And I think this was actually Tim's brainchild, if I remember correctly, last year. We have data that goes all the way back about 10 years. And you can look at, there's just piles of information here. We're just starting last year's information, data information. You can see in yellow, we're obviously looking back and looking at that data and plugging it in as we do the annual report. But you can see previous years in a variety of different areas. And it's not just academic, a lot of social emotional too.
Can I give you some information on Sarah's question a few
Yes,
minutes ago?
I think
So just going back and taking a look at some information that Dawn Foster had given me, the doors are done and they're working on the windows now. Okay, just so you know. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Other questions? Can I get a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for the 2024-25 strategic priorities?
So moved.
Thank you, Christina. Can I have a second?
Second.
We'll give that to Sean. All in favor? Great. It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, next up on the items for action, can I have a motion to approve the appointment of Dr. Charles de Saez?
So moved. So moved.
Okay, thank you.
Who moved it?
Megan.
Oh, Megan.
Megan. Yeah.
Can I have a second? Thank you. Sarah? Do you want to present this item?
Yep, this is an annual requirement by state law. It just says that each district must have an appointed by the board physician who assists our nurses as needed. And Dr. Desai has been our school physician for, I think, 5 or 6 years now. But it is an annual appointment. It has to come before the board for consideration. It's a very part-time position. It's a very small stipend that we pay. But we do have to have a physician on file, and he does assist the nurses with medical questions when they need help, and he's also there to work with families that might have some medical issues, and the nurses are helping to reach out and they need a physician to speak with. So that's what this is.
And he helped with the Narcan on campus last year.
Yes, those are the kinds of things he does provide. Prescription medications if there's a question. He also helps bridge between nurses and doctors' offices and talk to a physician, physician to physician. So an important resource, and he doesn't ask for much money, which is really nice.
He's amazing, and we're fortunate to have it.
He's also the physician that's, I think, for 3 or 4 other school districts in this area. So.
Other questions? All in favor? Great. Unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the appointment of MSBA delegate for the delegate assembly. As we move into this motion, there are blanks for names. And I want to thank Megan Lichter for, thank you, offering to be the our board delegate this year. We haven't had an alternate speak up. If anyone, Annika, do you want to just take a minute to talk briefly about what it's like to be, you were the alternate last year, is that correct?
I was, yeah. So I'm not sure how helpful I will be in providing information because Ann Maximovich was previously the delegate, and she really, I think I stepped in once as the alternate to participate in a virtual meeting. So ahead of the annual meeting that MSBA and the management organization put on in October, there's the delegate assembly, which is noted here, and I think that's really kind of the primary responsibility where we need to have someone involved. But then there are meetings that continue throughout the year on a monthly basis, I believe, or maybe it's less frequently, that are all virtual, and opportunities to be on with the executive director of MSBA and with other school board members from other districts and talk about topics that are of interest. I think it is a really good learning opportunity. At least I found it to be the one time that I did participate.
Great. Thank you. So anyone interested in being the alternate this year? Okay. Going once? Going twice? Thank you, Sarah. Yay! All right. I would like to make a motion to appoint Megan Lichter as the MSAD 51 board delegate to the MSMA Fall Conference, with Sarah Rose as the alternate.
I'll second that.
Well, you'd like to first that because
Oh, I thought you said you
I did. You're right.
You
I usually
want to make the motion?
Yes,
Is
I
that
want to want. That's usually what I do. All right, so I'll be the one who made the motion with Kim being the second. Thank you. And all in favor? Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. I know I've been to the conference, and I would encourage others. I know we've sent it out before. To consider also attending the conference, and I know I reviewed the agendas that go out for the delegates too, and it looks very interesting, so I really appreciate people's involvement. Okay, now we are moving on to some motions related to committees. The first one is for the suspension of the Community Engagement Committee. Could I have a motion to suspend the Community Engagement Committee for 1 year?
So moved.
Thank you, Jesse. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay. I was like, does this mean that nobody wants to? Thanks, Jessica. So I will just give a little brief explanation. The board, during our retreat, and leading up into retreat, had a number of conversations just about how, one, to thank Megan for chairing the Community Engagement Committee last year. And our representatives, I believe Kim and Tim, were school board members and 2 incredible community volunteers, Madge and Nina, as we, got ready for the June vote and just to share information in different ways that we could do that effectively. But going into this year with the new committees and wanting to think about different ways that we can engage and communicate, we wanted to bring some of that work back into the committees themselves and ask for committee chairs or their designee to help communicate about the work in the committees. And as we've talked about over the years, a lot of the work of the board actually happens in those committees. And also to acknowledge that there's going to be so much work with the building committee that we only have so many school board members and other administrators in the district who help staff these committees, and not wanting to have one more that we need to staff and bring those roles and responsibilities back into the committees themselves. So that was the reason behind suspending it for this year. We'll see how it goes, but we can always bring it back in the future year if we think it's more effective to have it as its own committee or get that communication responsibilities moved within the committees. Any
comment?
Yes.
I just want to add that it doesn't mean, for the community to know, it doesn't mean we're not communicating, that we all have emails that are available. Leanne's very, in particular, good at responding to everyone. We distribute a lot of letters to the neighbors so that they can have questions answered, because no question is too small and people will talk and be concerned, and we really do want people to continue to communicate. Just because we're not continuing this committee doesn't mean we don't want people to keep asking, and in positive ways, please, not always negative. Just before it gets to the negative, please ask us what's going on. We'll answer.
Thank you, Christina. And people will see in our board goals that we even have more board goals related to communication and engagement this year. So it's not so that we can ignore it.
It's not a disengagement.
It's not a disengagement. Any other questions, comments? All right. All in favor? Great. Unanimous? Okay, so now we move on to the new building and school facility committees. So I'm going to give just a little background information before we move to these motions. Now, I understand we may not have many viewers at home at this point, but if you eventually listen, you will see reflected on our website shortly is lots of information about the building committee. We did a call for volunteers over the summer for both the new building committee, the artificial turf subcommittee, the equity committee, but we haven't had like an official vote to form these committees, which is happening this evening. So I'll give a little bit more background information about these committees and also thank the community for an incredible response to our call for volunteers. It was a near impossible task for our board chairs to look at the experience and expertise of people who step forward to choose the small number of slots that we had allotted for community volunteers, and just wanted to reiterate how much we appreciate everyone stepping forward to make contributions to the school and ultimately to the students of our community. So thank you. So the first motion will be for the creation of a school building. We're calling school building / facilities committee because it will take the place of a separate facilities committee, at least for this next year. So much about what we've been talking about for long-term planning around the facilities has been related to the size and space for all of our students, and so much of that was captured in what we were able to get voted on in the referendum for the long-term plans of the One Campus project. So there may be some other things that come up that would have been on the regular facilities agenda, but so much of it is wrapped around making this campus work effectively for our communities. So we're recommending that this vote be for a combined building facilities committee for this year. And so I'm just going to briefly read the role of the building committee. And again, all this information is going to get posted. The building committee is advisory in nature and is appointed by the MSAD 51 school board. The committee is made up of parents, community members, public officials, and school department staff. The building committee advises and supports the school board on the design and construction of the school, oversees the project budget and schedule, and coordinates with town agencies. The building committee can set up subcommittees and appoint members to these subcommittees from their appointed voting and non-voting members as they see fit. The building committee is also responsible for outreach to MSAD staff, families, and community members, and informing the public about the project's overall progress during each specific phase of the building development. So that's some of the communication piece we were mentioning earlier. The building committee serves for the duration of the project, for the design phase through construction, and committee meetings are an opportunity for the design team to provide updates on recent progress changes to the design, project timeline, project budget, and any other pertinent issues. In turn, the building committee provides the design team with feedback, guidance, and thoughtful decision making to keep the project moving forward. This is a relatively large committee, as I mentioned, with lots of representation. Like all of our board committees, these are one-year appointments, but the committee itself will be running the duration of the project. So with that, can I have a motion to create a school building / facilities committee?
So moved.
Thank you, Megan. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Christina. Any questions? Comments? General excitement? All right, all in favor? Great. Thank you. Okay, so the next will be a motion to create the artificial turf subcommittee. So as I mentioned in the overall description of the building committee, there will be subcommittees throughout the project. We just know the focus and the community interest in the turf has led us to create a named subcommittee at the start of the project with, as I mentioned, the call for volunteers. We also asked community members, invited them onto that committee as well. So the artificial turf subcommittee provides recommendations to the building committee and decisions pertinent to the turf field, such as materials, design, and safety. The schedule of these meetings are also going to be made. They're going to be all public meetings. The agendas will be posted similarly to the building committee. We just want to make sure that this also gets the attention because we know there's a lot of interest. So we've made this a named committee that we're also voting on as a board to have approved. So could I have a motion to create an artificial turf subcommittee?
So moved.
Thank you, Tim. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions or comments?
I just want to note, I hadn't realized or missed the detail we were going to have student athletes on it, and there are 3, so I really appreciate that. That's great because they're really invested in it.
Yes,
Thank
and
you to them.
representing different sports, I think, was also part of the process. Great. And also, I wanted to, this will be posted, the committee list and membership is also going to be posted on the website. And I want to thank Tim Valenti, who's going to chair the building committee, and Jesse Lamar Vincent, who's going to be chairing the artificial turf committee, who also helps support the review of these incredible community volunteers that we are appointing to those committees. So also wanted to mention that. So all in favor of the formation of the artificial turf subcommittee? Great, it's unanimous. So, and thank you everyone. I know it's been quite a process to get us here, and just so excited to get these committees moving. All of the The initial meetings have already been scheduled and are on our website. Yeah, if you can mention where we can find more information. Part of us inviting community members to be able to join this, because we know we have so much work to start the school year with. We already have posted the meeting dates for the school building committee and the artificial turf committee. And if they're not on the website yet, they will be this week.
Yeah, we were working on putting the agendas also will be posted for those two groups, which will be on the agenda page. So this page is still being reworked.
Great. And so, all right, now I'm seeing the next two items for action are to accept the roster for the building and the turf committee. As I already mentioned, we have a whole slate of individuals for both of these committees that we've worked with both the community and the district to get appointees. Can I get a motion to accept the roster of the school building / facility committee?
So moved.
Thank you, Christina. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Annika. Any questions?
I just want to say, kind of echoing your point, Leanne, there were so many amazing candidates. Like it truly blew me away, just what we have in this community, but also who fit both the expertise and parent and multiple roles of them. And also, I think a lot of people, it also shows a great engagement and a resource for us to use. And so if you weren't selected at this point, it doesn't mean that we won't lean on you at some point during the year, but also there might be, needs next 2 years or 3 years where we reevaluate who we need to be on the committee, and your skill set might be a better fit for that time. And we considered what our priorities were for this year and to make sure that it kind of matched with that. But having said that, I'm just so thankful, and it really was an impressive array of experience, and so I'm very grateful that we had that to lean on. So thank you.
Thank you. Great. All in favor? Great. Unanimous. And can I get a motion to accept the roster for the artificial turf subcommittee?
So moved.
Thank you, Megan. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Sean. Any questions, comments?
I have a question.
Sure.
So I'm curious, the community members who applied, so I'm assuming, Jesse, you're going to be the best one to answer this, but was anyone chosen who is skeptical of artificial turf, who is hesitant or, greatly concerned? Will that voice be represented?
So I think everybody who applied had an interest. There were some people who were skeptical. We did choose somebody who is an environmental lawyer who has specific experience in PFAS regulations and litigation, and so and they're coming. They have children who probably won't be playing sports, and so they were submitting themselves basically just to keep us honest about what we're going to be able to say about PFAS and the regulations. And I thought that was an important person to include. Rather, there were other people who seemed skeptical and just wanted to assist in making the most environmentally friendly, most sustainable choice, or least toxic choice. So of those people, I didn't want to stack the committee with folks who were skeptical, because I don't think this is a re-referendum on whether we should do the turf field. I think we're trying to provide the board with, and the building committee and the board with, the best, safest, most durable surface for kids to play on, right? Like, this is for the kids, but we don't want a toxic surface. We want it to be playable. We want it to be durable. We want it to come in under budget. So yeah, we had folks with a lot of experience, either with turf in several different universities in Maine, or people who have experience installing turf facilities. So that's represented. So we have people who know what the options are and we can weigh them quickly. But we also have somebody who in their professional life have looked at the PFAS issue and will help us take it very seriously and make sure that we're not having the wool pulled over our eyes by the hopes and dreams of the manufacturers, and that proper testing has been done, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And we know there's a lot of environmental questions and concerns, and as a board, also with many of us with children who will be playing on the surface, just to know that we have questions and concerns that we will work to help communicate with the public about how we've made our decision-making process. I think is going to be very important on the turf, and how we communicate about it is very important, and we take that seriously. So, any other questions? Great. All in favor? All right. Another unanimous. Okay. I think that's the end of our items for action. Not quite the end of the agenda yet. But again, thank you. I know it's taken a lot over the summer to get us to this point where we feel very solid about being able to move forward with this committee work, and just very excited about these projects.
Yep, very exciting project for the next 3 years. A lot of work to be done, but thank you for the interest. Scott, as I mentioned, will be doing a more comprehensive update on the summer projects, most of which are completed at this point. But here's some just real quick photos. Mabel I. Wilson School, the Moon and the Stars hallway outside the library was completely revamped. I've personally gotten all kinds of comments from people that just think, and the painting that's been done throughout the common areas has really been, really kind of pops when you walk in the buildings now. And you can see that the maroon on the bottom there was painted this summer at Wilson. And also at Wilson on the Tuttle Road side of the window replacement, again, mostly done with that project. And then a lot of tile upgrades at Wilson School, as well as other schools. At the Wilson School, you can see the tile upgrades throughout, and the maroon painting, and we have some other pictures in there from the beginning of the school year as well. But you can see the custodians have done a great job keeping the buildings up, getting those floors waxed. It's almost like glass, and Wilson's ready to go. At the middle school, the entire lobby was really worked on, first with the flooring. We had done the wood bench before, but there were pieces that needed some reworking that we didn't get to last year, as well as the woodwork, and kind of upgrading and sprucing it. After 20 years, that part of the building had been kind of worn, considering 820 students plus 100 staff use this lobby each and every day. So need a little bit of attention, and it really looks terrific. At the high school, again, these are just some of the projects, not all of them. At the high school, you can see some photos of the cafeteria windows being set and then completed. If you haven't had a chance to go in the cafeteria, it's like a different room. It's like the Wilson cafeteria last year when we put the windows in. Natural light makes a huge difference. At the high school, these are some photos from freshman onboarding, 9th grade onboarding, as well as the first day or so of school as students are coming in, but mostly from the onboarding experience for 9th graders. We had, I think, 15 to 20 seniors helping out with the 9th grade onboarding, which is really great to see the older students helping with that. Rangers Rock Edition, senior parents made up the welcome back signs at the high school. So as you're coming to high school, these very festive signs that parents made, welcoming back all the students at the high school is really nice. That's where parents step in all the time, and actually that's the last slide. So short report, but just quick visuals as to us getting back in place.
Great, thank you. And I noticed we don't have committee reports on, because we haven't finalized our committees yet, but I'm going to put our seniors a little on the spot again. And any report outs from your first few days back?
The cafeteria, I was a little skeptical because the windows looked a little small, and I was like, how is this gonna make that big of a difference? But it really does, and it's a lot brighter in there. And then the outdoor space where we can eat, which is the only place that we can eat outside, the revamping that was done there was also very much appreciated. It's really nice. You don't get splinters anymore sitting on the tables, so it's pretty nice.
It's true.
Other than that, I mean, I feel like the biggest change has been the cell phone policy, but we already discussed that. And then the girls and boys soccer teams, they tied, both of them.
Oh, wow.
That's what was going on
Yes.
out there?
So, which is a big deal because I can't remember the last time that we've tied Yarmouth. So, this is big. That's my report.
It's because you guys were in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely. We're just never gonna go ever again. Junior year, big year. But I think everyone's fine. I think everyone's adjusting well, at least that I've talked to. And everyone likes the amount of time that we've spent in class meetings, and especially advisory. I love advisory. It gives me life. And I love going into school, especially first week of school, how much time we spent with our advisors. Like, it's just so great. And I also love my advisory. Like, it's just a great group of people. And especially with, like, at the high school, we have a lot of advisory switch-ups right now because there was, like, an issue with teachers retiring, and then a bunch of kids kind of got, like, spread out to different advisories that they haven't been with, especially in my grade. And so now people are with different advisors in different groups, but I think everyone's adjusting really well and everyone's, like, enjoying themselves. So that's good. And then, like Sophia said, and like we talked about earlier, cell phone policy is amazing, and I love it so much. No, I really do. I don't have to worry about anything at all. Everyone's so invested.
That's very cool feedback. For the advisory I don't exactly know how this works. So do students get set in a group with an advisor that is supposed to persist through the 4 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
The full IB students get switched into their special ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
We have a fancy
That's the
one.
only-
yeah, and you guys are both full IB?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Pat's students also, I think they switched this year so that, because they were missing a lot of advisory time and they were missing important information. So it's only, I think they got their own advisory, and Pat's and IB students. I don't know what's going on with Katie's grade, but.
My grade, just so many people were retiring. Like, my advisor, if I wasn't full IB, I would have gotten moved to a different advisory anyway.
Okay.
But all of my friends that got split up from my advisory, they're all, like, doing really well because we spent every single day at least once a day with them.
Great.
So it's been great.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so under communication, we have our board goals. Just so everyone watching at home, we have developed these board goals over the summer. We discussed as a group during our retreat in August and made some edits, and we've now reshared the document with some of those edits. This will go on our the school board website, or the school board portion of the district website. I'm not going to go through and read exactly all the goals right now, but it kept the preamble from last year that acknowledged that in accordance with the policy ACA, diversity, equity, inclusion, education, the board is committed to fostering values that improve diversity, equity, inclusion for students and employees, and this overarching commitment is embedded in every goal of the board. And then we decided on some areas that we developed specific board goals on. And there's 5 areas this year that we identified. The first was the One Campus project implementation. The second was supporting students. The third was supporting staff. The fourth was providing fiscal accountability. And the fifth was the community engagement and communication. And so we don't have like an actual item for action to approve these goals, but I just wanted to open it up. It was really great working with the board to come up with these goals. I'm really proud of what we hope to achieve over this year, and just see if anyone else has any comments or feedback before we finalize these goals and have them posted on the website. Hearing nothing. again, thank you for helping to draft these goals, and I look forward to working with everyone over the next year to support them. Finally, we have the board committee assignments. Again, this is something we worked on over the summer. We talked with all the various board members and assigned to all of our various committees, which includes our 2 new committees, the building committee and then the artificial turf subcommittee. And I want to thank everyone for working through that process. I know that a number of people are chairing committees, and that takes quite a bit of work. And we have a lot of new board members, so I'm really excited for you guys to start digging in to the actual work of the board, which, as we've said, mostly happens within these committees. I don't know if there's any questions on the committees at this time. Great. Okay. Again, this will all be posted publicly, and I know everyone is very excited to get this work started, and many committees have already started to be scheduled. So that also brings us to what? Okay. That we don't have another school board meeting in September. There will be a ton of committee work happening. Again, these are all posted on the website if people are interested. And then we'll have our next full board meeting at the beginning of October. Okay. Now we have 3 additional items for action. And we need to, are they all done in executive session?
The first one's just entering into executive session for that specific item.
Okay. So,
I move that we enter executive session to discuss negotiations between the MSAD 51 bus drivers and the MSAD 51 Board of Directors pursuant to state statute MRSA 4056D.
Thank you, Kim, for making the motion. Can I have a second? Second. Thank you, Annika. All in favor to move into executive session? All right.
Okay, want me to text you? I'll just text you.
Okay, thank you.
No sense for one more person to be out.
Okay, so yes, thank you. You students, you already